In this video, we're talking Disneyland Forward. Anaheim PD leaking some news about Disneyland Forward. Is it confirmed? Is it not? We have a lot to discuss here up next. Hey everybody, welcome aboard to another episode of OG55. I brought a fantastic panel with me today to talk all about Disneyland Forward. Anaheim PD is maybe confirming that it's a go. We're going to talk about it. But before we do, I'm going to start with Mr. Freshly Squeezed, producer Dre, VashSky. How you doing today, sir?
Hey, doing very well. You know, I'm excited to talk about this topic because I thought it was nothing, but as we'll find out, it might be something here. This is quite interesting, quite fascinating. But hey, you know what? If you want to talk to me on Twitter, you can go ahead and reach me down right there at VashSky. And if you want to see me, well, it's on the channel you're watching right now, Orange Grove 55 at Freshly Squeezed, your source for juicy news and info, squeezed fresh right from the Grove. There you go.
There you go. And down below, coming back, Sean, ranking the mouse. How you doing today, Sean? If you can let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Man, I'm doing amazing. I don't normally like to come on your videos, but when Dre hits that sound, man, that keeps me coming back every single time. But yeah, you guys can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, ranking the mouse. I just posted a recent YouTube video on Disneyland food on a budget. So if you're a budget traveler, you can check that out. But most of my content's coming on Twitter. Give me a follow there. I'll give you a follow back, and we can have some great Disney combos on Twitter.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Perfect. Yes, follow this man on Twitter. Subscribe to him on YouTube. He does phenomenal content. So we're going to talk about Disneyland Forward. Now, I was watching a fantastic content creator the other day who I absolutely love, Adventures in Design. And he did a whole little segment, not a long segment, but a segment about Disneyland Forward, this whole thing with Anaheim PD tweeting out, basically confirming, well, kind of what we think is confirming Disneyland Forward. So Dre, you have the video. Let me go ahead and bring that up real quick. And what we'll do, I guess, is we'll kind of we'll play it and we'll kind of stop it along the way, talk about it, kind of break it down. I don't know. Hey, Sean, have you seen this, by the way?
Yeah, I have. I love Adventures in Design. Definitely must follow on YouTube. I will say the Anaheim PD thing is really interesting, too, because we've seen mistakes on social media before that were wrong. But if anyone would know what's happening, it would be an Anaheim police department. So I think this has some legs to it, man. I think this might be confirmation, as much as I don't want to jump the gun.
100%. And I even made a video and a tweet actually recently about how Ken Potrock was talking about towards the end of April, he was going to discuss like Disneyland Resorts impact on the economy, the local economy. And there was a lot of focus on the economic impact, which is a lot of the same language they used for Disneyland Forward initially last year. And we talked about it on the video, Dre. Like, we talked about how that kind of points to Disneyland Forward. A lot of people said, oh, you're crazy. Orange Grove, you're fucking crazy, And then here we go. Anaheim PD saying Disneyland Forward. I'm like, okay, a lot of smoke. A lot of smoke. Is there fire? I don't know.
I think it was definitely deliberate, and I think they know. I think they can hear the rumblings coming out of the city council and how it's like, okay, well, if they're liaisoning or if Disney lobbyists or representatives are, speaking on behalf of of city council members and so forth, I think they're getting word back that it's like, yeah, I think this thing's a go. I think and that might have made its way out, and I think that's what Ken Potrock was talking about, and I think that's what the Anaheim PD is talking about. So Adventures in Design definitely thinks so, I think. But he has an interesting theory, and OG, I'm glad you brought this video up because this is really, really interesting. So let's get to it, and we'll pause along the way.
Yeah, let's do it. Go ahead and start the video. We'll pause along the way. We'll break it down.
And something interesting that happened this week is that the Anaheim Police Department, out of all people, were the ones that narked out or were the rat, spilling the beans that possibly OC Vibe and Disneyland Forward have been greenlight, and that's why they're looking to take on more police officers, because so much more is going to be happening inside of Anaheim. The only problem is that OC Vibe and Disneyland Forward have not been confirmed anywhere else, which is a pretty interesting place for this information to come out through the Anaheim Police Department, which then got everybody kind of talking, like our good friend Peter of Ordinary Adventures saying this is not the way that Disneyland was wanting this news to get out. And then Kevin Perger over Defunctland sort of speculated, is this A, Anaheim PD announcing Disneyland Forward before Disney, or B, Anaheim Police Department using this project as an excuse to expand its police department despite the projects not being confirmed. How dare Kevin say that a government branch would be untruthful to get more funding? How dare he say that?
There's Kevin Perger. I can definitely see him saying that. I can definitely see him saying that. It's quite on brand for him. But look, there is some, cynicism, obviously. Like it doesn't necessarily say that it is confirmed. It could be just for funding and so forth, right? I mean, it is possible. At the same time, though, I don't know. It seems pretty deliberate. You don't staff up like this without any reason.
Well, and here's the thing too, Dre. Let's just play along and just say that it was sort of to get more funding for the Anaheim Police Department, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say that's what happened. But that still puts pressure now on Disney and the city of Anaheim to get this done.
Right.
Because now Anaheim PD tweeted out that it's happening, basically. So now, if it's not really happening, if Anaheim PD doesn't know that, and it is a play to get more funding, well, now the pressure is really on, because now they've already tweeted it and got people's expectations that, hey, this thing is a go.
True.
Well,
yeah. And not only the expectations too, but the scope of them increasing the police department wanting more funding. That's another now department, and a government department that is wanting and benefiting from Disneyland Forward going forward. So it's no longer, obviously it never was just a Disney issue, but it puts more of the public onus on, hey, this isn't just about Disney. Are you really going to screw over Anaheim PD? Are you really going to screw over, all these other, whether they're government funded or not, industries that are going to benefit hugely off of this expansion? It puts a lot of public pressure on Anaheim that's not just Disney focused.
100%. The pressure, it puts the pressure on tremendously. Absolutely. I 100% agree.
Yeah. Get your name attached to that on the next ballot. Yeah. That's going to be the thing there.
Yeah. Right. And you wonder too, timing wise, because the last mayor, of Anaheim was not Disney friendly. You could probably say it was the opposite of Disney friendly.
Yeah.
Whereas now the current mayor, kind of hinging on his election, is obviously super Disney friendly. So it's interesting timing how a government official could change this so much, but it's probably deliberate timing wise.
From what we understand too, the city council is also very Disney friendly, so that has a lot to do with it as well.
Absolutely. All right, let's continue.
You got it.
So let's look at the plans, because there's something that is very obvious to me here. The Honda Center becoming way more evolved and having a complete community built all around it. It's very interesting because right now, this is all just mainly a lot of parking lot space, a couple of businesses that could probably easily be relocated. But when we look at the Honda Center becoming this real heart of an entertainment space, this says to me that the city of Anaheim learned a lot from the power of Disney, how reliant they are on Disney over the span of the pandemic. I mean, they're really trying to build a big area here to bring in a lot of entertainment for both locals and tourists. But when we look over at Disneyland Forward's plans, that's when I start to realize these two designs are very similar. And ultimately, Disneyland Forward is about getting freedom on zoning laws so that in some more advanced time that we live in, it's not hard to understand how a parking lot could also be a spot where there's entertainment and hotels. Mixed-use space is the future of architecture, and you see it in every major city. If you look at this spot right here that I just highlighted, that's Anaheim Garden Walk. If that were to be purchased, you could easily see how you could go from the Esplanade down to a Third Gate or even a Disney Springs. So both of these projects are in the exact same style, which would make you think that if one got approved, the other would get approved. And with everything that Anaheim as a city learned with Disney being absent for over 400 days, it would only make sense that they would want to give them whatever they want, because now Disney shows that they have all of the chips in negotiation. But if they're going to give Disney what they want, can they also give the city what they want, which is just more flexible zoning all around Anaheim, which really is a playground of a city. There's so much.
Okay, we get it. Sorry, yeah. I was looking for a pause point, but he can talk. What do you guys think about this? Juxtaposing these two projects in the way he has, I think there's something here.
No, Bricky brilliantly brings this up, where it's like, if they've approved it for the Honda Center, why wouldn't they approve it for Disneyland Resort? It's a fantastic point. What do you think, Sean? I mean, this is a really interesting kind of comparison here.
Yeah, the point he brings up about the future of mixed space is 100% correct. I mean, we've seen that everywhere. And if you look at Anaheim as a city, it has so much tourist draw, but outside of Disneyland, Angel Stadium, Honda Center, it's not a tourist city, far from a tourist city. And so I think Anaheim knows that's the future. I think they see that. And yeah, it's a great point. And the Garden Walk conversation is the most intriguing, because so many people point back to, well, why didn't they buy that when it was for sale a couple of years ago? That was a huge deal in the community. I don't think Disney wants to play their hand. And I think they know Garden Walk's going to be available down the road. That's not a property that's going to have tight hands down the road. So yeah, it's super intriguing. He's 100% spot on that mixed use space is the future, and that's kind of at the heart of the Disneyland Forward. It's not meant to release any set ideas or IPs. It's meant to get those zoning laws in Disney's favor. And so yeah, it's a great point, great video.
No, 100%. A fantastic video and a great point. I agree. And like he said, like, the mixed use is definitely the future. I've seen it here. I live in Southern California. There's a lot of areas around where I live that are taking old malls. Yeah. And they're bulldozing these old malls and turning them into these kind of mixed use areas where there's entertainment, residential, hotel, stuff like that. This is very trendy right now, right? And this is very, this is the direction that a lot of these cities are going in. So when Bricky says, like, hey, it's not too surprising that Anaheim is kind of full bore with this, I gotta agree. What do you think, Dre?
No, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, look, as far as kind of brick and mortar retail establishments right now in the form of malls, I mean, they take up a considerable amount of land. They take up a considerable amount of resources for cities, infrastructures, and so forth. Some infrastructure is actually designed to facilitate malls and so forth, but we've seen them kind of decline, in popularity. And I think these mixed use spaces are hugely impactful, and malls themselves were kind of doing that a little bit, at least before the events of 2020, right? We saw like aquariums be part of malls, and like I know local mall that we have around here, like they have like a Crayola kind of like entertainment center there, so they were already kind of like attempting different kinds of draws already, but these kind of mixed-use spaces, I do agree, it is the future. And in the imagery, at least released for Disneyland Forward, not to say that it's final or anything, right? It's just like, hey, imagine the possibilities, imagine what we could do with mixed-use zoning. In the imagery, it kind of conveys what they're doing for sure at Honda Center. It kind of conveys this kind of idea, like, hey, look, listen, if we had the freedom to do what we wanted to do, we can use this for any purposes that we want, a theme park or otherwise. And I think that was a really, really smart play, really, really good play on Disney's part. Visualize this kind of move. Don't just say, hey, we want to use zoning as we will, without that kind of illustration to provide a context for people.
Right. The visualization is important, and the OC vibe, the Honda Center expansion, it really adds another layer of intrigue to this, because it really shows that Anaheim knows that they're a tourist destination, or they should be more of, that they're not now. To have two professional sports teams, you have the Angels, the Anaheim Angels, Los Angeles Angels, Anaheim, unfortunately, but and you have the Ducks. That's a draw right there. To get a professional sports, Oregon itself is huge. You see major cities that don't have any. To have two is a big deal, and so Anaheim sees it, and the OC Vibe expansion really adds to this, because if you were to ask me the percentages before this Anaheim PD tweet of Disneyland Forward being approved by the city, I'd probably say 80%. I'm leaning more towards 90% at this point. It would be a big shock to me if this doesn't get approved, based on what we've seen so far. What do you guys think about that?
No, I completely agree. I completely agree, Sean. It's high. It seems like, look, there's a lot of smoke, and there's got to be fire. And I've said it before. Too many coincidences aren't a coincidence. The statement by Ken Potrock a couple of weeks ago saying how we're going to discuss how Disneyland, resort is going to be the economic engine for the local economy. Yeah. You don't say that when you're just releasing a new attraction at your park. That's not a driver of economic, Runaway Railway is not going to fuel the Anaheim economy. For the fact that Potrock was mentioning the Anaheim economy shows that there's big plans in play right now. The stuff that's really going to draw people to the area. Then Anaheim PD makes that tweet basically saying, hey, look, you know what? This is happening. We need more officers or whatever. I agree with Sean. I think the likelihood of this thing is like 90 percentile. I would be very surprised if it doesn't happen. The Honda Center is kind of a blueprint for what they kind of want to do in Anaheim. I would be hard pressed to imagine that it doesn't go through. I really would.
Yeah. And I agree with you, Sean. I mean, I think it's like 90%. And to OG's point as well, maybe in previous city councils and previous mayors, maybe they wanted to tap into other industries potentially, but let's be honest here. I mean, Anaheim itself has built up so much of its of its kind of resort and hotel inventory, lately in the past 5 years or so. Industries that have invested in Anaheim have really invested in the tourism side. I think Anaheim has a new understanding and appreciation for that now after going to the events of 2020. And I think they're really kind of they're interested in doubling down and really kind of leaning into their bread and butter, which is tourism. We saw kind of Angel Stadium kind of back and forth, and there were some negotiations there, but the city seemed, invested in investing in these kind of tourism draws that Anaheim provides. So I'd be hard pressed to see them say no on this. And with the Anaheim PD coming out, I think it's all but for sure thing at this point.
Yeah, and Dre, the Pandy changed everything. Pandy changed everything when Disneyland Resort was closed for 400 plus days, and Anaheim really felt that. I think that changed the game in regards to the relationship between Disneyland Resort and the city. Yeah, the city really realized, which I'm shocked it took them this long to fucking realize it. But Anaheim is nothing without the Disneyland Resort. They're nothing without it, and this is a huge economic engine for this area. And I think now they're going to go full bore. Go ahead, Sean. I'm sorry, sir.
No, you're good. Yeah, I 100% agree, and I think. I don't think it can go understated how important the government officials are to all of this too, because we saw with the last mayor, Tate was his name.
Tom Tate.
Tom Tate. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, whatever. He's probably a great guy, but he just didn't want to work with Disney. To OG's point, he wanted to look elsewhere in the industry. And I think now that you have Sidhu, man, I'm blanking on their names. The current mayor Sidhu.
Anyway, I believe that's correct.
Correct. And you see how Disney friendly he is. That's an integral part. Obviously, it's not just the mayor. You have the council and everything else that needs to approve this stuff. But you see him wanting to play ball with Disney. You see how important in his mind he sees Disney for the future of Anaheim. That can't be understated how important that is for the viability of this project. If Tate is still mayor, does this go through? Does this even get presented? Obviously, we saw it didn't get presented. It might not go through. So I think that's a big factor, as well as the pandemic that saw how much the city of Anaheim was hurting when Disney was closed.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Disney kind of did it to themselves a little bit, right? They try to block out businesses in Harbor with the Eastern Gateway project and stuff like that, and that kind of created its own controversy. They, all those businesses rallied together and got the media involved and got the city council involved and all that kind of stuff. So there were a lot of dynamics playing out, and Disney kind of taking a step back from that. I think was a smart move, especially right before the events of 2020, because that kind of reaffirmed, like, hey, a more mutually beneficial relationship with Disney and the city is probably a good thing, like for the both of us, kind of thing.
You wonder. Sorry, Dre, my bad. I was just thinking, wonder to your point, if that hotel goes through, if it's not Tom Tate and the current council that was in place at that time, we'll see what the future plans are for that. But it's just, you wonder.
You do wonder.
Here's the thing with and this is probably an unpopular opinion. I've said it before in videos a long time ago, years ago. I didn't agree with the local businesses around Disneyland in regard to that whole Easter Gateway thing. I mean, look, they are completely living off of the fact that Disneyland Resort is a huge draw. But that doesn't mean that Disney is like that Disney is responsible for ensuring that. You know what I'm saying? Like, just because the McDonald's, just because the IHOP, just because the Captain Kids garners a lot of business from Disneyland Resort doesn't mean that Disneyland is beholden to these companies and they have to ensure and coddle these companies across the street to make sure that they do well. I just don't agree with that. I think Disney is Disney, and Disney's in the business of making money for Disney, and that's the end of it. And if these other companies, they're kind of leeching off of Disney already, like, so it's like, I don't know. I just don't think Disney has a fair responsibility to their business across the street. I just don't.
Go ahead, Sean.
Just unfortunately, Captain Kids is no longer benefiting off of Disney. They're not anymore. So. R.I.P. to Captain Kids buffet.
It's out.
It's out. Here we go. There you go. That's a little.
I just don't think it's Disney's responsibility to prop all these businesses up around on Harbor. I just don't.
Look, I agree, and this is why Reedy Creek is so great, because they don't have to answer anybody. But because they had to go through the city, well, now everybody gets to see the table. And when you do have to do that, you have to be strategic, and unfortunately they weren't. Especially after the whole tax thing. The whole taxes on the park tickets and how they kind of strong-armed the city when it came to that. I mean, that really rubbed a lot of people off the wrong way, just from jump, and then you had all this kind of stuff following it. So, look, sometimes, like, I agree with you, OG, overall, like, really, it's this. Disney is the economic driver. They should be in the front seat, no question. But at the same time, it's like sometimes you do it to yourself. It's kind of how
and
it
it's
is.
a good point that other people are in the car. That it can't be understated how important Reedy Creek is. I don't think people realize what goes into these decisions that get made. Disney World has the autonomy that it does because there's no other drivers. There's no other riders in the car. They are steering the wheel wherever they want to steer the wheel. Right. Mostly. And so that's just not the case in Anaheim, and unfortunately, it's really hindered. It's really hindered Disney. But having a Disney-friendly mayor in office and Disney-friendly council is going to go a long way for him, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 100%.
Almost like it's by design, but that's a whole other story. The Anaheim mayor. Speaking of Harry Sidhu. Harry Sidhu is his name. So
yeah, thanks. Yep.
Well, yep. Okay, let's continue. Let's keep going.
Oh, maybe I messed that up there. There we go.
Much entertainment in Anaheim, it is off the charts. So I'm going to say that both of these are happening, and maybe this is the police department putting the horse ahead of the cart. But when you look at this work, it'd be hard to imagine that one wouldn't get approved without the other, because it's pretty much the same concept, just one in the private sector of Disneyland Resort doing whatever they want on their property, and then over at the Honda Center putting in some parks, putting in spaces for lots of different businesses to sort of congregate. It's almost as if the city of Anaheim knows that Disney is going to take the Toy Story parking lot, convert it into a third gate, and use the Simba parking lot to make DCA even larger, and God only knows what they'll do with the space that sits outside of Critter Country on the backside of Disneyland. But If Disney is going to use their land, the last land that they own, to make a third gate and expand DCA, then could this be the city of Anaheim beating Disney to the punch and saying, hey, we'll make the Disney Springs for your West Coast location? Because there will be no more land for Disney to go in on a massive retail area unless the city of Anaheim beats them to it. And if you really study OC Vibe, it does look like the West Coast equivalent to Disney Springs. Your thoughts below. Can't wait to hear what you got to say. I'm sure you got an opinion.
Oh, I'm sure we do.
This deserves the classic OG, just right there. Come on, the classic go-to.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing too. It's like, and I've been saying this for a long time, and a lot of people say, "Oh, you're crazy, OG. You're crazy, OG." But it's like, look, Disneyland Resort is so the space. They're very. It's very finite. You know, like they don't have unlimited space like they do in Florida. I'm telling you, I'm calling BS. I don't care what the concept art says. They're not going to build a shopping mall on 75 acres in Anaheim. When brick and mortar retail is dying out everywhere else, why would they waste 75 acres on more brick and mortar retail? You don't have any room. They're going to build a third park on that Toy Story lot. I can pretty much guarantee it. I'd be shocked if they didn't. You could look, a Disney Springs or another shopping mall. You can acquire 5, 10, maybe 15 acres somewhere around the resort for something like that. You're never going to acquire 70, 75 acres ever around Anaheim again. And you're going to blow that on shopping on another Wetzel Pretzel location? It's not going to happen, you guys. It's going to be a third park.
Shots fired at Wetzel's Pretzels. Yeah, I overall agree with you, OG. I don't think that the Honda Center is supposed to be Anaheim beating Disney to the punch. I don't think. I'll put it this way. Disney wants a downtown area, and they're going to have a downtown area in their property. It's not going to be all hotels or theme park. They will have a downtown area. Should they put it in Toy Story? No, I agree with you, OG. They shouldn't. That should be expansion. Where they then fit in their downtown, do they keep it as is and expand outward? I think they should keep it as is and use Disneyland Forward to expand DCA. Disneyland itself, man, it's already the biggest theme park in the world. It's going to stay that way for a long time in terms of attractions, in terms of what they have to offer. Yeah, they can expand a little bit over by Splash, but expand downtown that way, go towards the Disneyland Hotel, finish that off. They can privatize Disneyland Drive there and finish downtown that way. You can keep expanding DCA. You keep your Toy Story. Maybe you even keep Garden Walk as a small little downtown area going into the third gate, and you turn Toy Story into the third gate. That would be my ideal way to go. Whether they go that way or not, we'll see. But Disney wants a downtown area, but I do think they want a third park as well. I think both of those are in their hopeful plans.
Yeah, Disney definitely wants a third park because number one, it's a separate admission, so that's money right there. Number two, hotel occupancy. I mean, if you add a third gate, it's a psychological thing, right? You can build one ginormous park, but at the end of the day, people still see that as one park.
Right.
Okay, and that was the psychology really behind California Adventure, in that, yeah, we can expand Disneyland into one ginormous park, but it's still one park. If you have two gates, the psychology is there for people to be like, well, wow, 2 parks? We can't do that in one day. We better get a hotel. You add a third park, you up that ante even more so, and now you're even driving more hotel occupancy. Disney wants that third gate.
Yep. You could argue pre-Galaxy's Edge that Disneyland did not need an expansion. I mean, it was a full destination park before that. You had Galaxy's Edge, and I mean, that park is set for, you could argue, decades. And so they could expand a little bit. That'd be great. But the third park is more important. The DCA expansion is more important. And I would even argue their own downtown Disney, their own Disney Springs is just as important if you're adding another hotel with it as expanding Disneyland. So yeah, we'll see what they do, but
I think it's definitely as important, at least right now, at least with this current kind of revenue-driven regime here. It's definitely a big thing. Look, if the same kind of Reedy Creek arrangement existed out here as it did in Florida, right? I think they might have actually done the thing where they build a third gate featuring a Star Wars land just to kind of have it anchor whatever third gate idea that they had. Unfortunately, they didn't. So it's like, well, if we're going to do Star Wars, let's just do it in one of the existing parks, right? But had that arrangement been different, they might have actually gone that route.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I do think that Disney eventually wants a third gate out there at a certain point. My only pushback is like in the Disneyland Forward kind of documentation, it says like previously the Strawberry Fields or the Toy Story lot was supposed to be a third gate, right? Like that's its intention to be. They had to get special permits just to allow them to build a parking lot. But in like Disneyland Forward, they really want it to be mixed use as well. So it's like, why are they arguing for that? I think that could be the only potential hang up with the city. Like, let's this is supposed to be third gate. Let's keep it that way. We'll see how that kind of situation develops. But I do agree with you. They won eventually.
It'll be great to listen to this combo in 5 years and see what the plans are calling for based on what we're talking about now. It's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
It is. It's absolutely exciting. Now, Sean, I understand you're leaving us now. But before you go, if you can kind of
Ray's opinions have been just too hot for me, man. I can't handle them anymore. So
I agree.
But Sean, I do want to thank you for coming on, brother. And real quick before you go, let everyone know at home where they can find you on social media, sir.
Yeah, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Ranking the Mouse. You guys can find me there. Give me a follow on Twitter. I'll give you a follow back. That's where the best combos are. But you can also give me a sub on YouTube as well for some good rankings there. I let OG and Fresh Baked and some of those other ones do the good combos. I'm just here for the rankings. So you guys can find me there. And thanks so much for having me on.
Thank you for coming on, brother. We do appreciate it. Enjoy your weekend, okay, sir?
Take care, guys.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on.
All right.
He is great. He is absolutely awesome.
Love Sean. So this is fascinating. This is like a fascinating conversation. It looks like, they're making moves. Moves. I'm telling you that Ken Potrock thing at the end of this month, we're going to hear something. I don't know what it's going to be. I mean, look, a lot of people were kind of going after me like, oh, well, they're not going to, it's too soon for this. It's too soon for this. They don't have any plans for Disneyland Forward. No, they don't. They don't even need plans though. All they got to do really is come out and say, hey, look, we've been in negotiations with the city. We're moving forward. It looks like it's going to happen. Look for more stuff to be announced in the future. That's it.
That really is it. Now, I don't think they would want to step on it before official confirmation, right? Because those can kind of upset plans, and it's like you lose some leverage if people are banking on this to happen, and it's kind of all those kind of little things. Right. Also, too, I think the only two things that could hang this up at all at this point right now is the third gate thing, where it's like, you want this to be mixed use, but this really should be third gate. We have to have some assurances that this will be third gate, at least eventually. Maybe not at the outset, but eventually this is going to be third gate. And the other thing is the environmental impact, right? This is all about the environmental impact report and how, like, the population, around Disneyland, how many people it actually attracts, right? What impact is that going to have on the actual city itself? Obviously, something like this would be pretty substantial, but all those things aside, what they're looking to do with Disneyland Forward is within the realm of possibility, even within that economic impact report. Yes. Is there, a chance that it could cause, traffic and traffic issues and would it necessarily be like a drag on the existing infrastructure right there? Yes, of course, obviously, but I think this is a point where Anaheim is looking to invest, is looking to support, and I think they will make it work in both these instances. And with the Anaheim PD coming right out and kind of saying, hey, look, we're staffing up, in expectation of these things, I think this is, and the Ken Potrock thing too, like you said, OG, I know you got a lot of heat for that. I know you got a lot of pushback from a lot of different people. A lot of different people that we trust, that we know, that, that are good friends. But at the same time, with these kind of two things playing out here, I got to be honest, I think this is going to happen.
I think it's going to happen. I really, really do. And like what Adventures in Design was kind of touching upon with the Honda Center and everything. Mm-hmm. Things are in motion. And I do want to say, by the way, because I think we did finish the footage from his video.
Yeah.
Subscribe to Adventures in Design. They are
please do.
Unbelievable work. I love what he does over there with his YouTube channel, the analysis. He's got a background in architecture. He knows his shit. I love his channel. He brings a creativity, a uniqueness to his approach that is unmatched. And I cannot say enough to please subscribe and follow this guy. He's a phenomenal work. Please
subscribe. He's got a new documentary coming out on the electrical parade, which is going to be supposed to be really fantastic. It's actually it follows that little segment in that video specifically. He's doing construction updates. He's doing kind of podcast stuff like what we do. Yeah. He's doing vlogs. Like he's doing all kinds of stuff. Please give him a follow. He is great. But to Sean ranking the mouse's point that he brought up earlier in this conversation, I do kind of agree. Like, look, listen, Disneyland is built out. Disneyland is like you said, per attraction is one of the largest parks in the world, right? Just pure attraction count, given its size and so forth. It's stacked, right? DCA definitely needs expansion. It definitely needs the draw. It definitely needs the kind of attention to kind of lure guests away from Disneyland, kind of spread those crowds and be the draw on its own. So yeah, I do think expand DCA. Leave the portion that they say that they're going to expand Disneyland to. Leave that to hotels. Leave that to parking. Leave that to other infrastructure that the resort desperately needs in that specific area. But DCA and I was actually getting in a conversation with somebody else on Twitter, about Paradise Pier Hotel and how they should remove it and all this kind of stuff. And I do agree they should remove that. Are they? I don't think so. I think they want that hotel inventory. As unfortunate as that might be, but I think part of this is an forward thing, and why there might be looking to a mixed space model is to maybe do the Westcott thing, add the surrounding resorts around these theme park expansions in order to provide both that hotel inventory, that theme, that berm, the attraction show space, all those kind of things. I think it would be phenomenal. In that regard.
No, 100%. And Galaxy and the Galactic Star Cruiser has really, whether people love it, whether they think it's too expensive, whether they hate it, whatever it is, there's no doubt the Galactic Star Cruiser has really changed the game in terms of hotel immersion. Mm-hmm. And Disney now has kind of opened up this Pandora's box with this stuff. And what can they do with the Paradise Pier Hotel in terms of something like that? I know our friend over at DSNY mentioned how he kind of blue skied it and was saying, hey, turn it into an Avengers Tower, so to speak, right? Yeah. And that's the kind of stuff that you can kind of do here. You can kind of incorporate that hotel, especially with Disneyland Forward, into the theme park space much more seamlessly, you know? Who knows? Who knows what the area around that hotel will be in terms of theme? I'm sure it'll be California Adventure, but what will the theme be? And then once they get that theme, how do you tie the hotel into that? Right. Is it going to be like a Star Cruiser situation where it's so interconnected with the area it sits in and stuff like that? The potential, the sky is really the limit. It's just about really Disney putting the investment in, spending the money, giving Imagineering the budget to do it right. I think if they get all that stuff, I think this could be really, really dope. Really, really dope.
Hey, look, we were talking about Paradise Pier the last time we actually had Sean on. In fact, with King Dakar, we were talking about Paradise Pier, and we were saying how drab that hotel can be, especially its pool area, right? Well, what if that pool area that looks out over the parking lot right now looks over themed entertainment space? That would be, the shizniks, as the kids would say, right? I mean, that would be really, really cool. And it's interesting, I was looking at Westcott. Because I was doing some research and stuff. I was kind of looking, what they had planned and stuff like that. And I saw, even on the concept art, the Paradise Pier Hotel remained there. They weren't actually going to get rid of it. I would have thought, well, wouldn't that be a drag? Why wouldn't you get rid of this thing? It's not even Disney's original construction. But no, it was in there. So obviously, I think, even at that point, they had long-term thoughts for this and maybe, retheme it, reskin it, that kind of thing. So I think if we do get a remodel, it might be in the vein of keeping it simple, yet flexible for something to be better integrated into the surrounding areas, both in front on the DCA side and in the back on the current Simba parking lot side. So I think the future is grand for the entire resort. I think there are things you can do. Paradise Pier specifically, we saw the Disneyland Hotel get completely remodeled from the inside out, right?
Sure.
Could we not see something similar to the Paradise Pier Hotel? Maybe even more surgical, so to speak. More transformational. I think we could. And what we're seeing at Downtown Disney, what we're seeing, with Disneyland Forward potentially coming to fruition, I think the future's bright, really bright for Disneyland Resort, especially.
No, 100%. And regardless of whether they change is coming to the Paradise Pier Hotel. Even if they don't demolish the building, something. Look, it still bears the old name of a land that doesn't even exist anymore. Yeah. Obviously, Disney is holding off and sort of, biding their time to see what they want to do with it.
Evaluating their options.
Yeah, there's obviously something there. They're obviously going to change it to some degree. Now, will they bulldoze it? Like you said, probably not. The retheme, though, is highly likely. I mean, they almost have to, because the land that it's themed on doesn't exist anymore. Even at the bare minimum, make it Pixar Pier Hotel, right?
Yeah.
So something's going to happen with that hotel. I do think Disney is waiting for Disneyland Forward to kind of just be official, make the announcement, kind of get that going, and then they'll sort of address that hotel and the areas and what have you. But it's exciting time. It's exciting time. I feel very confident. I agree with Sean. I feel very confident. I think it's 90-something% that this Disneyland Forward initiative is gonna go through. I think that there's too much smoke for there not to be some sort of fire here. And between Potrock, the Anaheim PD, there's just too much.
Yeah. No, it's, where there's smoke, there's fire. There's a lot of smoke. There's a lot of smoke out there, and I think from the city's angle too, it's I think they want to invest in this. I think they want to kind of unleash a little bit more of the potential of Disneyland Resort, so they can keep the investment in Anaheim itself and not be scattered around all of Disney's properties all around the world. It's hey, let's unleash this a little bit more. Let's lead into our tourism industry a little bit more, to really saturate not just these hotels that have sprung up a lot to almost an absurd degree in the last 5-6 years, but the kind of economic driver that is Anaheim. So we'll see.
Interesting point too. We touched upon the Anaheim, the Harbor Boulevard businesses, and how it was very contentious with the Eastern Gateway and what have you. Mm-hmm. The power move by Disney might be, hey, look, reach out to these companies. McDonald's, IHOP. I think Mimi's is also across the street.
Right.
Phenomenal muffins over there, by the way. Cinnamon spice, love it.
I love them out. I love it.
Yeah, they're fantastic. They're fantastic. But in all seriousness, though, maybe Disney can kind of reach out to these companies and say, hey, look, you know what, Mimi's, you know what, McDonald's, you know what, IHOP. Let us go ahead and buy this property. We'll go ahead and buy the land that you currently sit on. We'll transform it into a Disney Springs sort of area, and you're guaranteed a leasing spot in this new incorporated area, this new reimagined district or whatever, shopping district. You have a guaranteed spot. You're kind of grandfathered in. That's what I think Disneyland should really look into, kind of working out these kind of deals with these companies. Look, obviously, the land where the McDonald's, the IHOP, and the Mimi's sits on is not enough for a third gate. So it's never going to be a theme park anyway.
Sure.
It's probably going to be some sort of retail, restaurant, dining thing. So just sort of give these companies something to say, hey, look, you know what? You're part of our expansion. You're part of the Disney family. Let's incorporate you. You're grandfathered in. We'll use you. You'll have a guaranteed spot. And that's a smart move to make. I really, really do. What do you think about that? You think that would be something that they should maybe kind of look into?
Well, it's interesting. It's buying land out from underneath somebody, even with their participation. It's kind of that's a move there. I don't think that's that's a big step right there. I don't know if they can pull quite that off, but maybe, hey, look, maybe it's like, hey, how can we better integrate you into Eastern Gateway? How can we better, like, and hey, let's say we get the garden walk, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk to those businesses and go, hey, let's integrate all of your assets into our new corridor that we'll have that will bring in way more business than Harbor ever would. Because now you're a thoroughfare, not just from the people going to, going, walking along Harbor to get to Disneyland, but maybe even through this kind of new retail corridor to get you to the third gate and to get you to Disneyland. That's a lot more people on a far more regular basis than just the morning and afternoon than their current setup is today. So I think maybe doing something like that, hey, I think that's a real possibility there. It's interesting you bring it up.
Yeah, you got to think outside the box a little bit, and maybe Disney can sort of like, instead of treating the local businesses, and we say local businesses, but really they're not local. McDonald's is just as big a company as Disney.
Yeah.
IHOP is not a mom and pop, sort of thing. Most of these businesses that face Disneyland are not small.
They're franchises of a much larger corporate entity.
Yeah, but like, kind of talk to these businesses and try to maybe, instead of treating them like the enemy, bring them into the fold. What can we do to sort of, hey, we want to expand Disneyland Resort. We're not trying to piss you off though, McDonald's. So how can we incorporate you into our expansion, basically? And that might be the way to go. And now we have a friendly mayor with Mayor Harry, and we have a city council that's more friendly to Disney. If you're going to do any of this stuff, do it now, because you never know. The next mayor might be the next Tom Tate, and then you're going to have real problems,
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, it's interesting. We talked about in the last video that we did, speaking on Universal specifically. I don't know when that video is going to actually come out, but when it does, you'll hear us talk about Universal and the kind of the labor war between them, and maybe Universal paying their employees more, right? To get more of the labor out from under Disney and stuff like that. One of the theories going along with that would be that maybe Disney's looking at economic conditions, and maybe they're looking at kind of these market forces that will change in the coming days. Maybe a slowdown in the economy and so forth, so that way they have more leveraging position when it comes to pay for their cast members. And it's a game that I don't much care for these corporations playing, but it's one that Disney is engaging in. Hey, for better or for worse, this is what they're doing. But I wrap it back to this because market conditions, economic conditions can change, and they can change on a dime.
Yeah. And
you just quite never know what's going to be, what tomorrow's going to bring. Hey, Newsom could shut you down tomorrow, right? And then what do you do? So I think establishing a relationship with some of these other franchisees, these other businesses in the area, this city, I think is a really, really strong move. It's a stronger move than trying to be, this guy that kind of, throws their weight around, so to speak. I think a much better financial position going forward is to have a good relationship with these businesses and not an adversarial one.
No, 100%. And Disney's already shown they can work with McDonald's. I mean, they've had decades and decades and decades of working with McDonald's in terms of like cross promotion and what have you. McDonald's even had I'm really going to age myself here, but McDonald's used to have a fry cart in Frontierland across from Big Thunder called Westward Ho. You could walk up and buy all they sold were McDonald's fries. This is the Paul Pressler era.
Yeah,
this is like the late 90s, early 2000s. But Disney has a history of working with McDonald's. They can reach out and talk to IHOP and these other businesses and sort of get something done.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it pans out. It's fascinating stuff. We'll have to wait and see how this whole Anaheim PD thing, if they were correct, maybe it was a confirmation, maybe it was a power play by Anaheim PD to sort of like what Sean was saying, sort of push them to get like more funding or what have you. Either way, though, it it kind of does make it kind of puts pressure on Disney and the city to have this thing move forward, because even if it's not confirmed and Anaheim PD is just saying this to get more funding, well, now they've tweeted it. Now you got people excited about it. Now they're even under more pressure to make sure it happens. So we'll see how
it could have been some social media manager that was savvy, or Anaheim PD actually knows something. I think they know something. I think everybody knows something. Like you said, Ken Potrock saying, "Oh yeah, we would want to, turn on this economic driver for the city through our investment." I mean, that is like, that is really interesting use of words.
These executives are politicians.
Oh yeah,
at their core.
Oh yeah,
and none of this language is ever an accident.
Right.
You watch a car commercial, and everything in that car commercial is definitely crafted into selling the car. That they have the 25 to 30-year-old driving the car. They got this, that. It's all, none of it's an accident. None of that stuff is an accident. Same with these executives. Potrock doesn't come out there and use the language he uses because it's on a whim. It just comes up with it. It's very crafted statements these guys come up with, and it's no coincidence. So we'll see what happens. But I appreciate you, Dre, coming on today, talking some shop, talking some Disneyland Forward. I also want to thank. I know Sean's no longer with us. He had a skip out a little early, but I also do want to thank Sean. I will be linking Sean's Twitter and his YouTube down below. Check him out, and his coffee shop. Him and his wife have a coffee shop, Barrio Coffee. I'll link that down below. So definitely check him out. But Dre, where can everyone at home find you on social media, sir?
Hey, best place to find me is going to be, to interact with me anyway, is going to be at VashSky on Twitter. It's right down there, just like it's spelled. Having a lot of, like I said, robust conversation. It's some of it gets exactly. It's gonna be now part of the set. Now, whenever I say it's gonna be robust conversation going forward. So, look forward to that. But look, it can't get maybe a little contentious on there online sometimes, but no, I've been having a lot of fun. You guys have been bringing up a lot of great points. Keep your tweets flowing, keep your comments flowing. We love to hear back from you, so that's been great. And the best place to see me, well, it's on the channel you're watching right now, Orange Grove 55 at Freshly Squeezed, your source for juicy news and info, squeezed fresh right from the Grove.
But really, nothing compares with a freshly squeezed.
I love that drop. So really good stuff.
Every time we drop it, we got to give a shout out, Mr.
Adam
Woo.
Adam the Woo here. Gotta give a shout out to that guy. He is phenomenal. He actually just had like this kind of contest promo kind of thing, or not contest, but it was like hey, you know what? You mail something. You mail me an envelope. I'll mail you back some stickers. So my mom actually participated in that. And true to his word, he did that, and that was really, really cool of him. So he's a phenomenal channel, phenomenal guy, really great dude. Definitely give him a subscription as well while you're on the subscription chain.
100%. Well, thank you, Dre, for coming on. Thank you, Sean, for coming on, and thank you all for watching this latest episode of OG 55, where we kind of broke down, Disneyland Forward, deep dived into Adventures and Designs video, which I thought was phenomenal. And talked a lot about the Anaheim businesses on Harbor, things like that. It was a great conversation. There's a lot here, a lot of meat here. We could we'll definitely be revisiting this topic again. This is an ongoing story for sure.
Don't even worry. This was a single tweet and this was a 50-minute video or whatever. Trust me, if this announcement actually comes forward, if the city actually goes live with it, trust me, we will be back here. So definitely subscribe to that. Share this video too. I think a lot of people want to hear stuff like this. So please go ahead and give us a share on your social media platforms. We love it.
Yeah, 100%. Share the video. It helps the channel. We do appreciate it. It does not go unnoticed. And to my 54-minute crew, I want to thank you so much for sticking with us for 54 minutes talking DL Forward and everything going on with Disneyland Resort. We do appreciate it. Thank you all so much for watching. And as always, have a wonderful, wonderful day.